What's up, everybody? It is your boy. Nope, we don't do that. What's up, everybody? It's Dorky Dad, and we're here today to talk with the representatives of the Player's Voice, and we are hoping to get some good change from this movement and their direct involvement with the Scopely Boundless team. So, joining me today, I have Beta Ray Bill, Evdog, and Sevi. We're going to do a quick introduction. We're going to talk about the movement. I got some questions I want to ask them, and then we're going to have some Twitch questions floating around too, and hopefully we'll be able to grab onto some of those. Without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so first things first, I want to disclose what my initial involvement with this movement was and how it evolved, devolved, whatever word you want to use. I'm sure Evdog will have some words. Super Troopers finished. Super Troopers, a bunch of people from Super Troopers were in the Discord that was involved with the developers. Dabbyback, thank you so much for the sub and spread and stream. You're the best. And they were told about the changes that were coming to the game. Some of the changes, such as the level increase and things like that. They got their hands on some of the numbers, and they said, this is going in a terrible direction. And Super Troopers folded. Super Troopers at the time, we were the number one performing alliance, but we were, I believe, the number 5 TCP alliance. We had a lot of crackers. We had a lot of spenders. We were, I don't know, probably responsible for 3% of the revenue Scopely makes, and then, you know, Legion them, they probably do 5, 6, 7, and then the rest is filled up by everybody else. So it was a big hit to them, and it shook up what I believe like the hierarchy in Marvel Strike Force a little bit. And that's when Evdog came to me, and Evdog said, like, this is getting out of hand. And obviously I was heartbroken with Super Troopers going, and I felt the same way. He said, let's try and get together and make some change. I said, yeah, let's do it. I was gung-ho. Let's go. We got this. I made a Discord. We started inviting a select bunch of like cluster leaders in there and some of the big names, and we wanted to just get the ball rolling, get some ideas floating about what we wanted to try and do, and then open it up like it has been open since. And that's about where my involvement ended, because life happened. I started the Discord, and I did a couple little write-ups along the way for some of the topics, and then I got laid off, wife got pregnant, and it just, life happens, right? So I ended up pretty much just ghosting, and Evdog was messaging me every other day like, hey, what, like, hi, what are you doing? Where are you? So I guess before we get into anything, I just wanted to apologize to Evdog for just like dying and dashing on you like that, like getting it involved, getting a bunch of people in there, and then just ducking out. But like, I'm so happy to see what you were able to make that movement become by pulling in people like Sevi, Morgan, and I guess Beta, who's now involved. I didn't even know that. So I'd like to give you this opportunity just to maybe make fun of me a bit.
Well, I would never make fun of Dorky. I love Dorky to death. Luckily, like you said, Sevi came and picked up your part of the check, you know, and we got a lot of help from other people. Something I wanted to actually correct in the other video interview I did with Mobile, because I was solo. I sort of made it seem like I was doing it on my own when I have an incredible team with me, an incredible group of people that put hours and hours and hours into what we do here, in Sevi and Morgan and CJ and Kron from Rogue and Faja, Evan B, Beta Ray Bill, all our moderators. I just want to give them all a shout out, because they do a shit ton of work. It's not just all me.
Yeah, I would say it's mostly not you. It's definitely,
yeah.
Like Kron came in to replace me for whatever bit I was doing. He made that Discord function just a whole lot better than what I was doing. But like Absolutely. You say, there's a lot of people involved with this, which is why it's more likely to succeed, where in the past, like 1 or 2 voices dominated the conversation. But you got a lot of voices, not only in the Discord, but also behind the scenes in the management. You got a lot of people keeping an eye on each other, making sure everything's going going
Yep.
good.
Want to give also a shout out to, even though they're basically gone, Tawna and Boylan and Goofy and
Mhm.
Pathfinder and all those guys that helped as well in the opening.
Yeah, for sure. And we could talk about that. I didn't have that down here, but we could talk about the implications of a bunch of our content creators losing. But I got some questions for you guys, and I think the most important thing is if you have not caught the mobile gamer video or the Heartgrave video or the Reddits or the streams that they've appeared on or anything like that, can you give me a quick rundown of what the player's voice is? And since Evdog, since you were the creator of it, why don't you let us know?
All right. So, I mean, basically, the player's voice movement is, as you said, once we started that initial group and put together that first letter to get the ball rolling, we quickly realized that there was a lot more work to be done. And the only way we could do it correctly was to open it up to everyone and hear all the voices, because we couldn't accurately explain what was going on in other parts of the game outside of the game that we play. Because as you know, playing in the top end, the game we play is a lot different from the game that maybe mid the game spenders play or free to play game players spend. So we
Right.
put together, we opened it up to everybody. It's now at about 5,500 active people, about 450-ish alliance leaders, their reps. And we do a lot of things in the server to um, gather information, such as polling, and we take information on how events are doing, how they feel to the community. We have forums. We put the forums together um, just to have a more structured way to address some of the problems, and it's been going really well. It's been going really well. The server, I know a lot of people think it's a lot of people complaining, but it's not. I mean, the server is basically a place where you can come and you can say what problems are are bothering you, but we address them constructively, and it has yet to turn into anything toxic in any way. And I would very much recommend that everybody jump on the server and give your ideas, give your suggestions. We have a suggestion area where we take those suggestions and we hand them over to the devs. Not saying that they will react to all of them, but at least they're seeing them.
Right on, right on. And yeah, so with 5,500 members, I got to imagine like the top what 1 to 5% that of players. Those are the players engaged enough with the game to be a part of something like the Discord. So you're probably capturing the lion's share of the top 2% of players, let's say, which means like it's a very influential group. The people that care enough to be involved with something like this are the people that are basically funding the game to a certain extent. A lot of the time. So I think the movement's very good. I think the way you guys are doing it democratically, as well as just being very transparent, is the way to go. That's something that you had talked about in the initial stage of this. So I have faith that the movement is in good faith. So let's get into some little bit heavier questions then. What was the last straw for you, Sevi, that made you think like, yeah, I need to get involved with something like this because this is a big time commitment you guys are doing. So that you're like sacrificing your time to be a part of this. I got to imagine there was some kind of straw that broke the camel's back for you that made you say like, I'm gonna use my time for this.
So I actually almost quit in October. I got really frustrated with the game and some of the offers, and I know a lot of my players, because I lead my own alliance, um, they were complaining about similar things to me as well. And I had the opportunity to be promoted to run WPF, and with that, I ended up joining the server, and I saw what you guys were trying to do, and I was like, okay, if this is what it's going to take to maybe affect some change in the game, then I definitely want to be involved in that. Because if it's not going to change, I don't see the point in spending on this. Like there's just so many things that are wrong with the game, and it really feels like Scopely is taking what could be an amazing product and just driving it into the ground.
Yeah, I agree heavily with that. I think the potential for Marvel Strike Force is infinite compared to what is being utilized. Beta, same question to you. What was the last trial that got you involved to this managerial portion?
So I think similarly to your journey, I was a member of Pants of Hulk for quite a while, and around I think it was the October-November timeframe last year, the downward pressures on the alliance from all of these issues that we've talked about or we're going to be talking about really put so much pressure on the alliance that it got to a point where basically half the alliance just said we're done, and the other half basically scattered off to the wind to other alliances. And so for me personally, around that time, I took a break from the game. I sat in the old Pants of Hulk shell for a while, and it took some friends urging in another alliance to come hang with them for a little while, but it was at a much different pace, and trying not to stress out too much about the ridiculous direction of game modes and offers and events and so forth. And so for me, it was watching a lot of really good people, a lot of good friends leave the game or get massively demotivated about things that are going on. That took me on my similar journey to you. And so, I've been sitting in helping another alliance for a while and watching that alliance, which was not as whaley krakeny as Pants of Hulk was, but had a mix of different levels, also go through similar issues and growth pains and frustrations. And so it got to a point where it's like, okay, well, I can also go that way, or I can try to pitch in and help out and see if we can't make a change in direction here.
Right on. And if Dog, why don't you finish that? What was the last straw for you? Was it Super Troopers leaving and you were never going to be able to avenge all those losses in war, so you just had to try and make the game and get Baron to come back? Like, what was it for you, buddy?
Well, if I remember correctly, we did get that last one, but to be very honest, I mean, the Super Troopers leaving had a very big effect as well, because how it goes hand in hand with what was happening. The top end of the game was literally falling apart. Super Troopers was kind of like one of the last pieces. It was kind of like trying to put together a puzzle, and Super Troopers was that could have completed that puzzle, but then now with it gone, there was a lack of competition. There was a lack of interest. Even at the top, I'm playing in what currently is or was the number one alliance, and it was hard for me to recruit. It was hard for me to keep people. Like up to that point, we rarely had a spot open. And within the last 3 to 4 months, I'm probably replacing at least one person a week. I get a message every week. Hey, I'm done. I love Mutiny. I love the community, but I'm done with this game. And I know a lot of people are like, why are you doing this? But the way I see it is, if we don't try something, what's the final result of that? Like, we just here and spend our money even with the likelihood that the game is going to die. It makes even less sense to me. So I just said, hey, I'm going to give this one big push and see where we can go with it. I'm going to try to get everybody involved, many people as possible, sincerely try to help every single part of the community and see where that goes.
Right on. So a recurring theme here. You guys saw your friends leave. You liked the game.
Yep.
The core gameplay is good. The direction of the game driving people off. Huge bummer. Like Sevi said, the potential in the game seems astronomical. There's so many different avenues, stories, characters. There's so much that they can do. And yet people are leaving despite that potential because, in fact, what we were getting is not very good. So it's a passion thing for you guys. You guys love the game. You love your community. You love your friends. You want it to be what it could be. So right away, I think that the inspiration is perfect. So we don't run too long. Let's do this in one word. Evdog, what is your primary concern? One sentence, because you're going to talk way too much.
Communicate. You know me. Communication. I think that that the process of communication is all wrong. We're getting the information and they're listening to us, but they're listening to us after the problem. And we need to change that to before the problem. And if we could do that, then we could fix a lot of things. Even half the things would be great.
All right, 5 sentences, but I'll forgive you. Okay. Sevi, what's your primary concern?
Quality of life.
Okay, you can elaborate. You're not going to take up 15 minutes to give Dougwood.
You gonna get the 5 countdown or not?
Okay, you get 5 sentences. Go. You got this.
Just being an alliance leader or in any type of leadership, if you're running a cluster, if you're trying to do recruiting, if you are running your own alliance, like this is a second job because they're doing so much to ruin this game.
All right,
I think that needs to be changed.
Yeah, I agree. From the management standpoint, like recruiting is tough. I have a good friend that just came to me. He's like, "Man, I'm looking for an alliance." I'm just like, I don't know how to facilitate that for you because Scopely hasn't even tried to facilitate that for anybody. All right, Beta, primary concern.
Well, besides obviously what they said, I'm going to sum it up in 1 or 2 words, which is agency or theory crafting. I think a lot of people are frustrated that basically Scopely is actually delivering some interesting stuff, and then they're shooting themselves in the foot. So you take something like Crucible, for example, which people loved in the beginning, and especially with the 32-person tournament, I think people really, really found motivation and excitement about what that methodology was. But I think they take these things and then they're swinging the pendulum too far the opposite direction and taking away a lot of the flexibility that many people come here for. So I think agency or theory crafting is a huge one for a lot of people, especially myself right now.
Couldn't agree more. Okay. And collectively, from your tells in the Discord, what do you think the primary concern of the collective group for the players' voice is? Go ahead, Dog. You got a good pulse on this.
It's still the same thing for me. It's the communication. I guess it goes to quality assurance, right? I think that there's no stopping the mistakes. I mean, those are going to happen. But what we can do is create a situation where we have some input on the front end of these mistakes to maybe make some of them not happen.
Sorry, maybe I didn't make my question clear. The collective is in like the totality of the people in the Discord, the 5,500 people. What seems to be their primary concern? Is it also communication? Gold. Resources.
Bottleneck.
Resources, game economy. I think they're fairly
game economy
aligned.
is huge.
Okay.
That comes up all the time.
Okay. I can see that being the case. I'm playing this other game, Lord of the Rings, where the economy makes me want to quit the game every single day. And
you play that too?
I already quit that one.
Yeah,
I'm still in there, but only hanging on because I have friends that are playing that depend on me to spend my money on that game.
Same here. It's the same thing, just a younger version, and it's gonna get worse.
Exactly. So like, Marvel Strike Force doesn't need to have such a stranglehold on the economy when they have so many other avenues of making money, in my opinion. So I'm happy to hear that is the primary concern of the collective. I think that's good. All right. Has there been any movement thus far? Like, I know you guys can't say much because I'm sure the developers or the figureheads of Scopely wouldn't want you to say much, but just genuinely speaking, has there been any kind of budgie?
I can say that we work really closely with a few of the devs. So we try to make them always aware of what we're trying to do. Because like I said, we're not trying to be their arch enemies. We're trying to figure out a way to work with them. So they've had the document since the first draft as well to look over it. And honestly, they responded pretty well to it. They have told us, which I think I can repeat, that they are looking at it. They are taking it seriously. They are taking all the requests seriously, including the Players Council. And we do know that they move slowly. They're a corporation. So we'll have to sit and wait and see what they come back with. In the meantime, we're still going to move the way that we're going to move because we're never sure if their response is going to be adequate. So part of why we're doing, these interviews, and we're going to do another hashtag movement, is to bring up, to raise community support, so that it just puts a little pressure on them to respond, and to respond in a good way, in an adequate way.
So has there been a timeline attached to that? Like, when can we expect, or when could we?
Well, we haven't
Yeah.
handed them the final draft yet, because
Okay.
the way that we did it was I handed them the first draft, but the final draft I put to the community first, to kind of look it over and give me some feedback, and maybe see if we want to tweak it here and there. We're probably going to hand it to them this Friday or Monday. And then we could pretty much, I think, in terms of what they've always done, we could pretty much expect at least 2 weeks before they really come up with something.
Yeah, and I mean, 2 weeks in the grand scheme of things, I think is actually kind of fair when you're talking about like a business, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know we like to think of this game as like our second home. At the end of the day, it is somebody's business. So I think it's fair for 2 weeks. I think it'd be unfair to go to a month. So yeah, I think that's good. So then that is the next course of action. That was my next question. So Sevi, why don't you walk us through, if you are in the loop on this, what is going to be the next course of action if we don't like what we hear after we get the response back from this book?
So right now we're working on the hashtag movement, and depending on what the response is, we have some steps outlined for additional pressure that we want to put. I don't know that we've decided on anything yet, but I know our next step was going to be a no login day. Trying to build support for that would be dependent on what their response is to us.
I mean,
Yeah, we have a couple phases of what we want to do, but as always, we've set up ourselves to be democratic, right? So we would put those out to the community and see what they want to do, and then we would move on those steps.
Right on. For whatever it's worth, whatever you find, from my opinion, being worth, guys, the guys watching, a no login day would be the pivotal point. If that is something that can actually be organized, so the vast majority of players don't log in for a full day, that sends the biggest message to them. It really does. Like, the app reviews, they get removed and then they get botted back up to 4% or whatever. A no login day is a real statement saying like, yo, we are serious about this. So I do think that's probably going to be a defining moment if it comes down to that. But as far as this hashtag goes, how can other people get involved besides just having their alliance change their name? Are we talking about like content creators putting in their videos, putting at the end of every Reddit post or Reddit title, Facebook, Twitter? Like what kind of engagement would you like to see from people who want to support the movement if we go down that road?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to have all the alliances change their name to support it. We're going to put it on all the social media outlets. We're going to put as much pressure as possible. We consider this, although they may not, we consider it a non-aggressive movement, because it's we don't necessarily want to put the game in a place. I know a lot of people think that our first move should be to address their financial impact, but that's our last step. We're hoping to put enough pressure that the threat of that actually gets the job done, because we do want the game to succeed. And it's my feeling that anyhow we hurt Scopely financially, they'll take it back somewhere else later on when we're not looking.
For sure. That's why I think a no login day is far better than any kind of boycott, because it shows them like, yo, it's not about the crappy offers you guys put out there. It's not about that. It's about us losing our friends and you needing to acknowledge that needs to stop.
It also shows that the greater community can organize themselves and do something like that.
That too. All right, so let's go to the soft-spoken beta, and let's ask him about the nuclear option. So is there a nuclear option for this movement? If if everything's going sideways, if they just throw the letter back at you guys, say like, we're not even going to read this, get it out of here. What's the nuclear option for this movement?
That's a good question. Short of, doing the financial option that was discussed, I think nuclear is going to happen on its own if things don't change. To be honest with you, there's just enough.
Nuclear.
There's just enough downward pressure happening from the spenders, where basically they're going to get that impact whether we organize it or not.
True.
So
yeah, we
I
talked about
think
people that just left the
I
game.
think they're
right?
kind of like heading us towards the nuclear option in their own fashion, which they don't see it yet.
Yeah, that's why I was saying earlier that they're shooting themselves in the foot in many regards. One thing I wanted to add, you were talking about in terms of the primary concerns in any movement. To me, and I think to a lot of people, this document is huge, right? It's 40 some odd pages. There's lots of asks in there, lots of issues. I think the biggest victory that we can expect short term, if we walk away feeling like we've made progress, is if we get a players' council established, and one that is engaged with them at the senior most levels, where we're not reactionary, but we're proactive far in advance of things that they're developing or thinking of doing. If we can achieve that victory, that would be a huge victory that I believe will lead to solving a lot of the other issues.
True. I mean, maybe we would not have had this crucible conveyor belt thing that everyone's up in
Correct.
arms about, right?
Exactly.
And maybe the war, we wouldn't have so much war defensive overbearing defensive rooms. Maybe they could have trimmed that
Exactly.
down, stuff like that.
Or the hoarding events nonstop.
Yeah.
All of those things. We don't have to have this players' council involved with each and every detail of every event or every offer or everything that they roll out, but enough content or concepts far enough in advance that basically says, no, this is a bad idea, this is a better way to do it, and achieve some sort of compromised approach that doesn't impact the company, but also creates positive environments that the players want to continue to engage with.
I want to also add that the Players Council idea is not us saying, hey, Scopely, we know better than you. What we're asking is that they use us as a free sounding board for what it is they're going to do. Like, they don't always have to agree with us. We don't know what they have in development and what their plans are. But if if they have the information as, oh, this might not be well received, this would be well received, they could make a few better choices. And maybe we don't get everything right, but I'm pretty sure we would we would be able to get rid of half the problems in the game.
Yeah, or at least be able to hold them even more accountable, right? So it's like,
Yep.
if you tell them, hey, like, we told you this was going to be bad, look how bad it's going right now. This is your own fault. This was your decision.
It could also give them a little cover when things do go bad if there's player involvement as well,
Mhm.
And it doesn't always end up being, oh, Scopely did this wrong, and it gives them a little bit more leeway on the back end side of having some agency to fix it without people just being totally upset.
Right on. All right, so we've kind of already answered the last question where I was going to ask, what would be the last straw that makes the game unsalvageable to you guys? It sounds like if the status quo remains, is the game unsalvageable then? Are we going to lose so many people, so many of our friends that eventually we all leave? Let's start with you, Sam.
100%. I don't see this game continuing in the same direction and working. And I know maybe in their head they're like, okay, well, old guard will go out and new guard will come in. But the way the game is structured right now, it'll burn out new guard even faster than it burned out old guard.
Yep.
So if they don't make some changes, it's going to be a never-ending cycle until it ends.
Yeah, I mean, just the length of time it takes to the end game at this point, the obstacles it would take for a new player to kind of be where the old guard is at this point. It's such a steep mountain to climb. And if someone were to just come into the game and not have this knowledge that we have, and just do the math on what it would take to max out all 240 whatever characters, they'd run for the hills. They'd say, like, what do you mean I got to play the game for 8 years and you have to not release any character in that time if I want to do this free to play, or I got to drop 200,000? Like, it would be crazy. All right.
I think somebody said something in the players in the Discord that made me laugh. They said they could have 260 PS5s right now.
That's a good investment.
Yeah.
All right, so something that's close to my heart. I didn't actually put this on the question sheet, but I know you guys were kind of talking about it already. The departure of content creators. So, like we lost Pathfinder. We lost Philosopher long ago, prior to this movement. We lost Tana, who was a big, big loss in my opinion with the data mines. Not that Pathfinder wasn't lost. Pathfinder was an up-and-comer. He was a very positive voice. And he was someone who I considered a growing friend. Tana, a little bit more strange, but I think the work that he did was undeniable. And Goofy was somebody that I just loved hanging out with, going back and forth with him, going on streams and losing him. And then other personalities we've lost, right? Like we lost Duff, not Zubin. We lost Duff. We lost Tando. Tadano. I always say his name wrong. And we've lost a lot of people. So we lost Baron. We lost RJ. I think Masillo quit. Scotty's gone. Brad's hanging it up. A lot of the big names that you see in streams regularly, or just you see them at the top of all the leaderboards, they're all trickling out. How does this losing of these figureheads, has it affected this movement, or has it affected just the game in general, and the damages that it causes? Is it repairable? Let's start with you, Evdok, because you've had a lot of interactions with all these people quitting. All my friends that quit seem to go join you and then quit a week later. What's going on, buddy?
Well, I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to keep people interested in the game right now, and I find it harder than it's ever been. As I said earlier, like for the first 3 years I was a leader of Mutiny, it was hard for me to even have a spot open, So it's, as you said, it's not just the CCs. It's really cornerstones of the community quitting. It's a lot of influencers. It's a lot of people that made the community run. And I tried to relate this to the devs, because I don't know if they see that in their analytics, and I mean, I guess they're hearing me, but part of what has always kept me in the game, kept me spending, is my friends, the community, and that community is falling apart. And as the community falls apart, it's less reason for me to spend. Like, you could name some people. There's been some influential people for me too, like Wanna Snuggle and Saber. And these are guys that played the game from beta and loved the game, and just were like, we love the game, we love the community, we just can't do it anymore. And
we're good people too.
And we're great people, and I just hope they, I try to explain to them, I'm definitely not a the Chicken Little kind of sky is falling kind of guy. But I'm telling them that this feels different from any other time in the game.
I think losing Tadano was also very impactful for the community. As much as people love to hate on him for the amount of money that he spent, and some of the other top spenders too, like Tadano did a lot for the community. He picked characters that he knew would benefit everybody. Even if they were already maxed for him and it didn't do anything for him. Like he just did all of this stuff that people kind of didn't really pay attention to, and just saw him at the top of the leaderboards and hated him for it. But losing that advocate for the community, especially, we know that because we were the ones that broke that he was leaving the game. He gave us his statement. And, he tried to work with us to figure out what his best parting gift as far as character selections could be. And he went to bat for the community multiple times, trying to get them what they asked for.
Yeah. I always thought it was silly that they limited him to like characters that were new, but not new. Like they couldn't be in this current patch or something, or the patch before. It was very silly. I also kind of always wish that he did like Ravager Stitcher, just to push it to the haters. But then it would all the people that do like him and weren't being dinks about the amount of money he spent, they would punish them too. So I'm glad he had higher morals than I do. All right. Well, I think that's a good start. So people can find you in the Discord. I'm definitely going to have that linked in the comment section below as well as in the description. So make sure you go join that Discord, hit up the polls, get involved because it's making a difference. And let me tell you, don't come to my Discord asking for me to ask the devs to make change, okay? There's no 5,500 people behind me, okay? It's me getting ignored. So go to them. They're way more qualified to get these changes. You want to leave with any parting words, Evdog?
In parting, I just wanted to thank you for having us, Dorky, and have you know that regardless, you've never lost status as my third or fourth best CC that I know.
Oh, Evdog.
At least you didn't say you were number.
You're still hurt. You're still hurt from those war losses.
At least you didn't say you were number 2 in his mind.
I guess those 180 milli punch-ups. They don't leave you, huh? They stick around. Those videos hurt. Sevi, anything you want to say before we take off?
I just really appreciate you having us on, and to echo what you said, join the Discord server, help us really make an impact with what we're trying to do here. We need everybody's support.
Beta, would you like to flame Taco and Ceci before we take off?
No, I do that enough on my own. No, I would amplify what they said too, and I know there's been comments I've seen where people say, you know, there's been movements like this before and they haven't worked. Why should we hold out hope this time? I think one of the things here is this is not a movement that's going away. So I would encourage people to get behind it because it will be here for the long term. There's a lot we know that needs to be changed, but you know, even if we move it just a little bit, that can have impact down the road a lot. So I encourage people to get behind it.
Couldn't agree more. On that note, guys, we're gonna end this video. Thank you so much for hanging out. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Love you, Dorky.
I'm gonna cut that out, dog. I'm gonna cut that out. You don't get to leave the video with people thinking you're a good guy. That ain't happening.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.